Hi. Today I wanted to talk about Gen Z and millennials again. I have done one video like this in the past where I talked about how Gen Z and millennials are the most depressed, anxious generation ever, and I gave some guesses on why I thought that was. And I want to talk about a similar topic today and kind of give my 2 cents on it and why I think this is the way that it is, and that's having kids. Right now, the birth rates have absolutely hit the floor. They're the lowest they've been in years. Tons of different researchers have compiled all of this data to show that people are having less kids than ever. And the people right now who are of childbearing age are millennials and starting to be Gen Z. As a person who is of the age where sometimes people get pregnant and have babies, and personally having no intention to do that in the near future or maybe ever, I wanted to point out that this is definitely a cultural decision on the part of millennials and Gen Z. It's not that they're having a harder time having kids. They want to have them, but they're trying and they aren't getting pregnant. That's not the case. Fertility rates have maintained pretty consistent, and also compared to previous generations, the ability to get fertility treatment and go to special fertility clinics and see doctors to be able to get pregnant, that science has advanced so much more. And even though obviously you have to pay for it, it didn't used to be an option at all for our parents. It just was not as well developed at the time. So it's definitely a mindset change in these younger generations of Gen Z and millennials of not wanting to have kids. And I think one of the reasons is exactly what I talked about in my other video that I mentioned, and that's Gen Z and millennials having mental health issues and not being able to make themselves happy. So you don't want to bring in a child to that equation. If you're looking at yourself and where you are as a person and you're feeling depressed, you are anxious or suffering with any other mental health issues, it's not really something on your mind that you'd like to add in a kid or a baby to that, because I don't think it would help with the feeling of pressure and hopelessness. You don't want to bring a child into a world that you feel is going down the wrong path. And I talked about economic instability and climate change as real concerns for younger generations, and that definitely has crossed my mind of, I don't want to dump a kid into the world and they have to deal with all of these problems that have been created that they may not be able to fix. And they just have to suffer with the consequences because I wanted to have a kid. And I certainly know that having a kid would not fix mental health problems. If anything, I think you need to be secure in your mindset and feeling good about yourself and your relationship with your partner who you're having the kid with. That's a good time to have a child. If you're feeling unstable and your mental clarity is not there at all, you're just not interested in a kid. And I think that's part of the reason why Gen Z and millennials are just saying no. Another reason, which has been documented, millennials and Gen Z are listing this as a reason of not having kids, is concern about the future of the country, of the world, and its safety, its livability, and obviously women being the ones who would get pregnant and have children, I think their mindset has 1,000% shifted from baby boomer times and generations before. Young women today finally feel like they have the opportunity to really succeed and have an independent life without a man, and I think without a traditional family unit. Women are maybe a little bit more selfish in a way, like wanting to succeed themselves and putting more emphasis on personal growth and what can I achieve rather than an achievement of having a baby. Something else that I can do all on my own and make a name for myself and make myself proud. I definitely think that motherhood is not, it's seen as a little bit old-fashioned in a way, or traditional, and women are wanting to break out from that and achieve different things and succeed in a different way, because it now feels like more of an option. Like, if I wanted, I could become a CEO of my own business and run it myself and make tons of money and travel the world. And I just don't think in previous years that women dreamed like that as much. And now it seems more doable because spaces for women like that are opening up like never before. And that's exciting, and that's an opportunity that is eye-catching to young women. There's also the very real concern of financial instability. With millennials especially, they came out of high school and college around the time of the 2008 recession, and it just completely f***ed them over. Finding a job that was well paying at the time, that's why no millennials can afford a house. And where do you want to raise a kid? A house. But millennials can't afford houses because the economy was just like absolutely in the toilet, and not having enough money to raise kids reminds me of seeing those articles written by older people like, why aren't millennials buying diamonds? Why aren't millennials buying houses? Why aren't millennials supporting this industry? This industry's dying because millennials aren't supporting it. Just completely oblivious to the fact that millennials can't afford splashy purchases. We don't have that kind of money. You're not paying us that amount of money. You can't even bring the minimum wage up to $15, which is what you need to be able to afford a one-bedroom apartment in America, certainly nowhere near a house. Especially what's happened over this past year, just seeing the place that our country is in, it just is not really feeling like a positive environment right now. There was just a worldwide pandemic that we're still trying to come out of that and survive one of the worst years we've all had to suffer through ever before, along with all of the injustices that are now coming to light so much. And I talked about this in my video about Gen Z being depressed. We know too much about what's wrong with the world to feel excited about making a new person have to come into it and exist. You know, no one signs up to be born. It's decided by your parents, and it almost feels like, yeah, I'm gonna bring you into this country. I know there's definitely been research about minorities not feeling comfortable with bringing as many children into the world and getting pregnant as much because they fear that their children will have to face discrimination just like they did. And obviously we've seen that discrimination is still a very real problem, and it's a valid concern. Just the combination, this whole cocktail of things, not having any money, not being able to afford a nice large place to live, not feeling secure in the economy, not feeling secure in the social, cultural place right now about treating people well, how difficult it seems for us to claw our way to success, and the looming fears of climate change and other global problems. Of course, it doesn't feel like a great time to have kids. That's why young people don't want to have kids. And add on top of that having your own problems and trying to get yourself together. If I can't get myself together and have my own life be filled with success and happiness, how am I supposed to do that for someone else? And I definitely think that in older generations, they were, and through no fault of their own, less educated. I mean, the younger generations now are the most educated they've ever been. And in the past, people just didn't know as much about these things that I've listed so far, so they didn't have as many fears about having babies. A lot of people talk about Gen Z and millennials as a selfish generation, the one who invented the selfie and being all about themselves. And maybe in a way that's true, and that has something to do with why they want to put their own life first before thinking about babies. And even though some young people are wanting kids, they're waiting way later in life to have them. And at that point, that's when you may start to have some fertility problems. If you're a woman and you're 35 and you finally feel like you've got to that place in life where you're ready to have that kid, now you're 35 and it's way harder to get pregnant than when you were 25. And that's when generations of the past were having kids, when they were 25 or younger. I'm not really sure if younger generations not having kids is a bad thing. I've seen some articles saying that people are concerned. My initial reaction is maybe this is good because the world is not large enough to support the current amount of people. I'm like, oh, it would be great if we could help the problem of overpopulation because there's not enough room for this many billions of people, and it would be nice if we could take it down a notch. Then we would be able to, have less crowding, more homes for people, more food and clean drinking water for the people of the world, if there's less mouths to feed. But there definitely is the concern with having the imbalance, too many old people and not enough young people. So if the birth rate is really dropping this drastically at the current rate, declining as far down as it is, there's going to be too many old people that a huge percentage of young people will have to have jobs in elder care, and not enough young people want that job. So I do see how that's a problem. And unfortunately, much like my previous video, I don't exactly have any solutions to this. But I just wanted to talk about how I understand. I think I know the reasons why Gen Z and younger people are not so much looking forward to having kids and kind of wondering, if I'm going to have kids, I definitely am not going to have as many as my parents did, or I'm not going to have any at all. I completely understand that's the sentiment and the culture. And if we're going to change that, if we want the birth rate to maintain or increase at all, then there's going to have to be some serious cultural mindset shifts about improving quality of life and financial security and economic stability and mental health treatment. I hope that these things are on their way to improvement to make young people feel like it is a good idea to have kids again, but at the same time, it definitely feels like it's a ways down the road and there's a lot of work to be done. So, those are my thoughts for today on why young people aren't having kids. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about this, and thanks for watching.